Properly handling fame. Properly handling fame. It's interesting. A lot of people growing up have the desire to be famous. They have the desire to be well known, to be revered by masses of people. There's kind of this thing where, a lot of folks see a celebrity and, kind of wonder, oh my gosh, what it would be like to sign autographs and to, have people, waiting on you and to just be watching you when you're walking around, etc. There's a lot of people that secretly have a desire to be famous. But how do most people handle fame, right? And it's interesting when you really take a look at how individuals who have, ascended into some level of fame, how they handle it. And if you've ever had the privilege of building a relationship with someone or various individuals who have, risen to some level of prominence, you come to realize that fame is not what it's all cracked out to be, right? And it's interesting because it actually correlates with a lot of what your visions are for things that you dream about. So for some people, they dream about going to a particular place. And then when they get to that place, sometimes it's like, it's kind of underwhelming. Or some people, I'll even say like growing up, when you think about like graduating from college, right? You're like, oh my gosh, as soon as I get to college and graduate, it's like I hit the finish line. It's like everything's going to open up. And then you walk across the stage and you're kind of like, okay, it's not exactly what I imagined, but, it's cool, but it's not what I imagined. I'll even throw another one. When you get married, I remember when my wife and I got married on our wedding day, after the ceremony was over, the reception was done, and we were in the limo headed to the hotel. We kind of looked at each other and we're like, so I guess this is it, huh? Right? Because like you spend a whole year planning and getting to a spot, and then you get there, and then it's just like, okay, it's kind of like on to the next thing. And I think when you talk to people, or what I've experienced when I talk to people who've had some semblance of fame, yes, it's cool to be recognized, but it does get exhausting. But I think some of that is also rooted in the fact of how they approach their level of fame. So this clip that I'm going to show you is Jason Alexander, and he's definitely well known from his character on the show Seinfeld. And you hear his example of how he approached fame, how he approached, playing a character that brought joy to lots of people, but then also how he navigates life. And it'll really give you a totally different perspective on the concept of fame. Hear this clip, and then we'll jump into a breakdown in a second.
To become famous to the extent that you did, I must be a huge lifestyle change.
I didn't stop going to the supermarket. To this day, I'm in Ralph's and people go, "What are you doing here?" And I go, "Where should I be? I need groceries." Don't you have people? I go, "To get groceries?" No, I don't have. I have people that do some things, but they don't get groceries. And what I'm always saying to people is, I'm not the important thing. The experience I gave you is what you're responding to. I'm just the guy who goes to work. My work happens to be that I say these lines and I make these things. But there's no difference between you and me, except for what I do for a living. And you saw it and you had an experience. So now you're bringing your experience and you're putting it on me. Great. I accept that. That's great. But I'm not your experience. I'm just a guy. I have the same issues you do. They used to say everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. I find if you move through the world like that, the attention's fine. It's really fine.
So he really highlights the fact that it's not that he's famous, it's the experience that he generates for people has generated a level of fame, but it's really not him. It was a character that he played. And by him breaking down the fact that he does work like everybody else, but it just happens that the work that he does brings him a level of fame and notoriety. That's where the fame comes from. It's not that he's any more or less important than the next person. And I think this was such an interesting back and forth. And it's something for people to realize, because a lot of times, There are people who don't think that they have a lot of self-worth unless there's a lot of people who know who they are and what they do. If they don't have notoriety, then they feel that their self-worth is less than the person who's known by millions of people, right? And again, if you've had interactions with famous individuals, you come to realize that, dude, they're just like everybody else. They just happened, like Jason Alexander mentioned, they just happened to do work that gives an experience to lots of people, and a lot of people value that. But the reality is they're just going to work like everybody else. Your famous musician that you follow and you watch, they're just a person who goes to work playing music, and it just happens that millions of people like the music that they produce. Your famous actor is just a person who goes to work reading their lines and really embodying a character. And by them going to work and doing that, millions of people just happen to enjoy that experience, which then gives them notoriety. The person who's had business success, who's created billion-dollar businesses and multi-million-dollar, entities, etc., those individuals just happen to create an entity or be a part of a situation that generates billions of dollars. But they go to work the same way as the dude who's putting deals together for his lawn care company. They go and do the same thing, just in different spaces, as the person who's, doing a one-off contract where, they'll make just enough money to buy dinner tonight. Right? But it just happens that those individuals do deals or negotiate entities or are participating in businesses that just happen to be at a larger scale, but it's no better or worse than the person who's not operating on that level. Again, it's perspective. And I think, again, Jason Alexander from Seinfeld fame, I use the word fame here, I think he gives a really awesome perspective, because it really allows us to understand that, listen, everybody's just doing a job. Some people's job gets a little more attention than the other, but the reality is we're all just doing our job. And you're no better or worse than the next person, right? From a biblical perspective, we're all beautifully and wonderfully made. Right? You think about parts of the body. The one component of the body is no more important than the other component of the body. And in all honesty, a lot of times a part of the body that seems to be of minimal importance is actually vital to the functioning of other parts of the body. Everything works together. So if you're a person who maybe has secret desires for fame, I'm not telling you not to desire fame, but also to realize that fame at times can be overrated. And the reality is, it's not the fame, it's the work that you do that impacts a lot of people. And because of that, you create a level of attention and notoriety that impacts lots of folks. So that's really what it all is. Do the work really well, and there's a possibility you may impact lots of people. But if you don't worry about it. Maybe you were designed just to impact those that you encounter, and that's enough. There is no dishonor in doing things on a smaller scale. There's no dishonor in doing things on a smaller scale, because the other side to the fame and the attention is that, I think it was Kobe Bryant that said, if you live by the applause, then you die by the boos. So sometimes what happens is individuals get the taste of fame and attention, and now it's all about repeating that process, because it's like a dopamine hit that they need. And that's dangerous in its own right, because now you're chasing the attention, you're chasing the fame, as opposed to committing yourself to doing what it is you're called to do at a very high level. And if it happens to impact lots of people and you achieve some level of notoriety, cool. If not, stay in alignment with what you're purposed to do, with what you are created to do. Because if you lean into that, regardless of whether lots of people know, whether lots of people are impacted, it's almost guaranteed that the right people will know and the right people will be impacted. And that is what life is all about. So dig it, man. Y'all go be the quarterback of your mindset. Take control of what's going on. Lean into that thing that's burning inside of you that you know you're supposed to go and do. Do it at a very high level. Be obedient to that and have a little bit of fun in the process. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.